Aye.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Brian Courtney with Short Bus Debate Club. Today we are talking about dead musicians. And I guess you know what they meant to us when they were alive and whether or not their death had a huge impact on our lives. The first musician I ever remember dying was Elvis Presley. And I don't know shit about his music. I think his movies fucking suck. But I remember my babysitter crying and fucking wailing and running around the house, and she was just so distraught about it.
You
And
would have been too. I mean, you actually remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, you would have been just a teeny little fucking thing.
No, I was 4.
He was 75.
No, he died in
Did
77.
he die in 77?
Yeah.
You're probably right. I could be wrong. Okay. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's fine. I was little,
Uh-huh.
but that's why I was confused. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. And then I remember similar things happening when, Lennon got shot in 80. But I never could understand a lot of the things that happened with music, like watching, these old videos when the Beatles showed up in the United States and all of the girls fucking screaming and crying and fainting and shit. I don't know. That just seemed like it was overkill. And I was sad when a lot of musicians died. I mean, just recently, Bowie died. That was a fucking shame. Prince died. That was a shame. Chris Cornell. I mean, and those are just the recent ones. Tom Petty. And those were all really good musicians, and I have catalogs of their shit. But I didn't cry for any amount of time over any of it.
But music it's one of those sort of like oddly magical things, Like you can't get people to come together and agree over jack shit about anything, But for some reason, you take a band and you make it available for people to spend X amount of dollars to go to this location. And the way that these people vibrate, literally, makes the people in the audience vibrate a certain way, and there's this sort of like social resonation. I mean, it's like a fucking magic trick, but it's not. It's just a part of our psyche that on some level we probably don't really understand very well. But like you think about like what was going on when the Beatles, when their music first came out, just like Chuck Berry comes out and he this very fucking weird thing on the guitar, and everybody's like, and it just startles people to the point where, I mean, like you said, for the Beatles, I mean, screeching, just like, and they're not listening to it, but there's something about that resonation that it creates a possibility in like our collective space that we never had prior to the phenomenon of popular music and concerts and shit like that.
So, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I mean, originally, if we're, more tribal and we're not living as we are now, music was a way for everybody to get together and communicate. Are we still doing that on just a larger level?
Well, I mean, obviously, the ritual, I think you could argue that the semblance of the ritual is very similar, but obviously we're not, going out and banging on drums, dancing around, praying for rain and shit like that. We're not, doing a dance to have a good harvest, on some level. But at the same time, that social environment and the catharsis. Like I remember going to see Fugazi when I was like 13, and that's the first time I ever went into a show where there was a mosh pit, right? And I had a lot of angst as a 13-year-old, and Like there was these skinheads that were there, and Ian McKay fucking stops the show and tells them to get the fuck out of here, and everybody starts fucking like pounding on him, and they kick him the fuck out. But and in that moment, I realized that this was a place where we all had kind of an agreement, where we are really angry with the society we're involved in. We don't really know what to do about it, so we just jam out to this music and get in a fucking mosh pit and just explode. I mean, that's not about death, but I mean the certain concept of the ritual, and the way that
The first real mosh pit I was in, or the real big mosh pit I was in, was probably System of a Down. And that was a crazy fucking mosh pit, but it wasn't. It was like there was this mutual respect that was there. Like if somebody got knocked over, people stopped and helped that person up because nobody wanted to get trampled. But if you were standing, an elbow in the eye was fine.
Yeah. And quite frankly, it was going to happen every now and again. You were going to take one, and sometimes you were going to give one. But like you're saying, the point isn't, there's not a retaliation factor in that moment. You've all got this agreement, and you don't, when people get trampled, that shit moves fast and heavy. So you have to be conscious, to make sure to make that choice. Pick that person up, make sure they're not getting fucking destroyed.
It's a social contract. I understand that. But I mean, so that.
I wonder if that was what John Locke was thinking about. The social contract of the mosh pit.
Well, it definitely is there because I've seen other mosh pits where that social contract wasn't there.
There were punk shows that I went to that skinheads were at, and it was not like that Ian McKay moment, and they were brutal. They actually had this thing called the Wall of Death, and like if you got caught in the middle of it, sometimes this fucking cockbag named Dan Ashley. I don't mean dropping his fucking full name because he was a white supremacist fucking shithead of a fucking skinhead who had cigars on him all the time. He'd fucking
burn
people in the fucking pit with the fucking cigars. That's a violation. That's not. I didn't mean to.
No, that's definitely uncalled for. So we've got this social contract and this almost tribal belief that has passed on from generation to generation where music is important to all of us. And I'm not talking about a certain genre or anything else. It's music. Dave Chappelle joked around about black people wanting drums and Mexicans wanting piano and white people wanting guitar, and maybe that's true to a point. But we all want music. I still don't understand the crying and wailing thing, but I mean, I think on the guitar episode we talked about Prince being one of the greatest guitarists ever. Him being gone is a fucking horrible shame. And not only was he a great guitarist, but he wrote music for bands that nobody knew he wrote music. And he had vaults of the shit that was just never read, never released. So when you lose somebody like that, I think that it's a shame. And the same goes for Bowie. I mean,
he was a super fucking pioneer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he did some weird shit, and you think, okay, well, he just did that to get people's attention, but it wasn't that. He was trying to break social contracts and break out of certain boundaries, and say, hey, fuck you, I'm gonna wear makeup and I'm Ziggy Stardust, motherfucker.
He did, and he was, he was a super bummer. I was listening to something the other day just about Prince. Do you know why the whole artist formerly known as Prince, how that happened, what that was really about?
I have no idea.
So it wasn't him trying to be some esoteric shitbag. It was him. So, there was a Dave Chappelle thing that I was listening to where, because he, like, before Prince had died, Chappelle and him had struck up a friendship. Prince thought the fucking
thing was funny.
Fucking funny, dude. Come on.
We'll play shirts and skins.
Yes. But when you sign a contract uh, as a person who's an artist, throughout the contract it refers to the artist, the artist, the artist, the artist, and the point is about the notion that uh, that the people who are inking it, depending on how the contract is structured, can be owned in various different ways.
So he
you
did it to
cease to
fuck
be
with the record
Yes, he
company.
ceased to be Prince and he became the art. I mean, he was being a dick.
Right.
Which I mean, if you think that's brilliant. I love that.
Well, he probably got fucked over on so many records. I mean, because I know he wrote songs for the Bangles and he wrote songs for the Go-Go's.
Well, what did he write? Which ones did he write for?
I think he wrote Manic Monday.
Really? Wow.
I'm not positive about that, but I know that he just, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that he wrote so many songs for so many fucking bands that I'm sure the record company fucked him over multiple times. And every musician that has ever given an interview basically says they get fucked over like their freshman and sophomore albums. They don't make any fucking money at all, and the record company keeps everything and sometimes charges them for shit that happens.
That's why, I mean, like at least from like interviews that I've heard lately, a ton of artists, that's why they tour so heavily, because when they're touring, they can capitalize on that position and use their industrial, their ideas to make that shit huge. Because the fact, there was a statistic I was hearing to where like when the say Sergeant Pepper's was playing on Spotify X amount of times, whoever owns the rights to that Beatles stuff now, which I'm sure is probably not John Lennon or Yoko Ono or George, the late George Harrison, or any of them anymore. I'm sure they sold it off for $1 billion to somebody or another. But the people who produced it, they get paid. So like, say that there's like 3 cents every time it airs or something like that. Like half of that goes to the people that produced it, and like 1/100th of it goes to the actual artists themselves.
Right. So and then like I said, there's always these fucking weird chargebacks and shit. You guys went over your per diem, so you owe us X number, or you got fucking drunk and thrashed a motel room, you owe us for that, whatever the case is. So I just did a quick search, and none of the songs that I mentioned are on here, but so he wrote Stevie Nicks' Stand Back in 1983.
Okay, that's a huge song.
Of course, he wrote Jungle Love by the Time. He wrote a bunch of stuff for Sheila E. and Sheena Easton, which I think that's just because he was banging them.
Did you teach him how to play the drums? Which one played the drums?
That was Sheila E. Because she could bounce that drumstick off the fucking ground. He did write one for Sinead O'Connor too.
Not Nothing Compares to You, was it?
I don't know. I'm looking.
If it was that would be a fucking monster, because that's the only thing that anybody remembers for, and for talking shit about the Flag, which I have the utmost respect for her for.
He wrote Kiss for Tom Jones.
That's a huge fucking. That was a huge song.
He wrote Yo Mister for Patti LaBelle.
Oddly enough, I don't remember Yo Mister.
And Nothing Compares to You for Sinead O'Connor.
That's crazy. That's a huge fucking. I mean, that made her. And Chris Cornell did a really kind of a cool version on YouTube that he recorded of that. With there's a cello and another guitar back. It's really pretty. Some backing vocals. It's a cool version of that song. Yeah, Prince was a fucking madman. But like the thing that you were saying about the cultural significance of music throughout the years. I mean, you think about somebody like Jerry Garcia and like the Grateful Dead. I mean, they literally built an economy following them from fucking place to place. I mean, like for my part, because I was kind of a deadhead. I mean, I was most definitely a deadhead during that time period. But I was in Seattle visiting my brother's family during that time period. I was with my dad. We were going to the San Juan Islands that morning, and I was fucking exhausted. smoked too much weed the night before or something like that, and I'm playing with some devil sticks, and this guy comes up to me, and I had this Grateful Growers shirt, tie dye one, the Four Seasons of the Grateful Growers, the planting and the taking care of it and the harvesting and then the enjoyment. Very important things to understand. But this other guy's wearing a tie dye. He comes up and he says, "So are you wearing that shirt because you're in mourning?" And I said, "I'm in mourning that it's morning." He said, "No, dude, I'm serious." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Jerry Garcia, they found him dead this morning, had a heart attack last night." And I was like, but I was not going to be that kind of person that you're talking about either. I mean, I was very connected to the dead and I had a lot of emotions about it, but I didn't shed a fucking tear. But I know tons of my friends did. They went and had these big vigils, and
I knew that there were lots of vigils, but I didn't see anybody fucking crying hysterically and, throwing themselves down on the ground and that kind of shit. I saw a lot of the bobbing and weaving type of thing and the playing music. Do you know what I mean? Because the same thing happened when Jimmy died and Janice, and I wasn't around then, but just based on like videos
sure
and
you
shit
were.
that I've seen.
It was 73, right? You were here, just barely.
barely.
72 and 73, I think. I can't remember who and which ones, but yeah, that was the 27 club. They all died when they were 27 years old.
It's a fucked up club to be in.
Kurt Cobain died when he was 27.
Cobain's in it. Winehouse is in it.
Yeah, she's in it. Yeah.
There are a bunch of them that are actually in that 27 club. Just talking about people that died young, and I don't know if this is why everybody loves the two of them or not. But Tupac and Biggie died, and besides NWA and Dr. Dre, and I don't think that they crossed over the same way. But, rap was generally something that was just played by black people in poorer neighborhoods. I mean, they were selling tapes out of trunks and shit like that. And getting them, hopefully on the air and whatever. So NWA makes a small crossover. They end up breaking up. Dre crosses over. And then fucking Tupac and Biggie go huge. I mean, that was a huge crossover. Every fucking white kid from where suburbia started to the fucking farmlands of whatever state you're in, every white kid had either one or the other, and sometimes both.
Yeah, an opinion on East Coast versus West Coast and all that kind of shit. Dumb kids. There were some other people before that, though. Run DMC crossed over early in the late 80s.
A little bit. The Aerosmith thing happened, but I'm talking about crossing over to where now you can fucking buy several houses and cars and shit.
Snoop Dogg, dude. I really think that Dre, when Dre had Snoop on that album, Chronic, and then Snoop did his other one right after that. All the stupid fucking white suburban kids that I was hanging out with were hanging out with Snoop Double D, OJ.
That's true. I remember that, and I'm not saying that nobody crossed over. I'm just saying that I think they crossed over a lot more.
He was fucking 26. He did that all happened. You look at like how much, like Tupac specifically, like how much he grew from 19 to 26 and then fucking died. Like, such a bummer. It would have been so cool to see that dude grow up. But maybe that's one of the weird things about these icons is that, like, I don't know that I want to know what happened to Kurt Cobain when he's 80 years old. Like, you go back and you listen to fucking the lyrics from Nevermind or listen to All Apologies and shit. Like, he was so ironic with everything that he was doing and saying. Like, I don't know that he, like, when you listen to All Apologies and you think about him fucking killing himself, it's almost like he was.
I think he knew it was coming. Yeah. I mean,
But Tupac was different in that sense. Like he was growing, and then blam, 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 safe and eat.
Yeah. Well, he didn't commit suicide for one.
Yeah. No, he got
But I don't know. Do you really? Maybe with Tupac, he would have been better if he kept doing what he was doing.
He showed a lot of growth in those last.
Kurt Cobain, I don't know if he would have been better.
He read Machiavelli
twice,
more than 2 times.
Yeah. Yeah, that was huge.
Sorry.
So, I mean, but Biggie, it's crazy. Like last year or earlier this year was the 25th anniversary of that fucking Life After Death album, dude.
Was that double?
Yeah. The one that just fucking blew up because that first one with the little like Afro kid on the front, that one didn't do it. I mean, it sold, but that Life After Death was fucking just boom. But again, I bought Tupac stuff and I definitely bought Biggie's stuff. I don't think that I had that emotional connection to where I would cry.
Dude, in the communities where he came from, there were many tears shed.
Oh, dude, there was that fucking parade, and there were lots of people crying. And what is it? Brooklyn Sty? No, something Sty.
Where you mean where Tupac was born?
No, where Biggie was from.
Tupac was born out there too. He just went out to San Francisco later on.
Right.
I didn't realize that he was. I went just down a Tupac rabbit hole recently. I didn't realize that he was from New York at all.
He well, and that's why the East Coast West Coast thing didn't make any sense
at all. Yeah. But that you play it up to. I mean, it made good money. There's no doubt about that.
And maybe that's what maybe the media helped with all of that shit, and every white kid buying it is because of all of the hype about the East Coast West Coast. I don't know. I still think it's a shame that both of them are fucking dead because I think they could have done some good things.
Yeah.
But whatever. You joked around about Mama Cass at the end of the show last time. I mean, we haven't been around so long, but the United States and rock and roll and recorded music has been around so long that obviously there are going to be a lot of people that we know of in the musical area that have died. And some mean more than others. I mean, I still listen to Nirvana. I tried to get to Cobain's. Well, never mind. I'm kind of morbid, but I try to find like graves and shit when I go to different places. And I tried to go by his house when I was out in Seattle, and I couldn't find it. But it was mainly just so that I could see where it was, not so that I could say I see where he died, if that makes sense.
Why? I mean, just
I don't know why.
Just sort of like put a frame of like the narrative, like to see this is where this moment occurred, or
no, maybe it is. Maybe I am fascinated with death. I don't know because I go to fucking cemeteries all the time too.
You're cuckoo.
Yeah.
That stuff. Since we're talking about Cobain, just quickly, I never ever listened to the Foo Fighters ever, but when there's this guy that I listen to or that reviews live performances, like, and he's a jam band guy, so his conversations generally appeal to me a ton. And Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for Foo Fighters, died in March of this year, and he had at his tribute show, they had 2 tribute shows. They had one in LA and then they had one at Wembley Stadium in the UK. And at the Wembley Stadium one, they had his I think 15-year-old son Shane come up and play drums on My Hero, and fucking that kid just, dude, it was a cool thing to see. As a parent, I don't know, you think that, so it really drove me down a rabbit hole with regards to him. And he was clearly a very infectious character. Like and dude, a really fucking good drummer. Like I just that's to be I like for the last I don't know whenever I saw that tribute thing, I've just been listening to a lot of their stuff and listening to what he did specifically. And like honestly, like he set that fucking band in the more complicated directions that it was going to go in. Without him, it never would have worked as well as it did. That's for sure.
That kind of hit me hard just because he was like, I think he's only like 3 years older than
Yeah.
me. So I thought, fuck, I guess I could die pretty much any fucking minute.
Well, and he had a heart attack and he'd been taking a lot of painkillers and drinking and things like that. So,
But he was in a lot of bands before the Foo Fighters.
yeah, he played. I mean, he was Alanis Morissette's tour drummer. I mean, he played. He was. I think he did a lot of touring stuff for people too. I mean, just before he really.
He played for Coheed and Cambria too, which that would have been a fucking hard band to play. Those guys are complicated as hell.
I'm not sure who that is.
It's like this weird heavy metal band, but they're, I don't know, kind of like operatic.
I'm sure, dude. That dude was technical as shit, man.
But he was in the Birds of Satan. He had to be because he bumped Grohl off of the drums, technically.
But they sometimes, like, I've been watching all these weird live performances, and sometimes Dave will go back and Taylor would come up, like they do all these Queen covers and shit, and he'd sing the one that, what's the David Bowie Queen song? The Under Pressure.
Pressure.
Yeah. So he'd sing the Under Pressure, and Dave would go back and play he's a fucking awesome drummer too, man. That guy, maybe I just kind of slept on the fact that guy is really, and I like the structure of the songs. A lot of it's fucking power chords and shit, and like drop D tunings and stuff. So it's not like it's not rocket surgery, But still, having said that, they got a lot of breaks, and they change directions and cut time, and it's not your usual everyday 4/4 fucking put me to sleep trash, Not to say that there's a lot of great 4/4 stuff. I mean, shit, like a lot of the singer-songwriter stuff that I love, who's Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash did everything pretty much in 4/4. But you better fucking love Johnny Cash. If you don't love Johnny Cash, you don't fucking love music. So
yeah, I always tell people that I don't like country music, but then I'm like, well, there's Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. And then
you're talking about the Highwaymen is what you're pretty much talking about there. Do you like Chris Christopherson at all? His stuff was fluffier, but he hung out with all those guys.
Well, yeah, I know. He hung out, but I always thought of Chris Christopherson as an actor, not a musician. And I know that he was a musician, but
he wasn't obviously not as prolific as those other guys were. I mean, fucking Johnny Cash is a madman, dude. And Willie Nelson, dude, great. You want to talk about a guy that's written songs for? He wrote Patsy Cline's Big. Another person. She died when she was 30. She was one of those plane crash deaths, like Richie Valens and the Big Bopper and fucking Buddy Holly. I mean, planes and 27-year-olds and shit like that. There are some things that circulate around musicians where you got to be careful which way you're walking, because someone's gonna fucking hop a curb and fucking take you out, and it'll all be over with.
Well, I think that could be said for any of us. The only difference is we're not impacting people's lives like they are.
I'm not impacting people's lives like Bob Marley or something like that.
No. And, Bob being dead is fucking horrible, except for the fact that now anybody with the Marley name seems to think they can cut a fucking record, and there are lots of them, dude.
Some of them are okay, though.
I like most of Damien's stuff.
He's angry motherfucker, man. He's got that revolution in him a little bit more than some of them.
Some of Steven's stuff is okay. He
also got a little bit of that revolution in him. Ziggy's a little bit of a fucking weenie.
And then there's, I don't know if all of them are like sons and I don't think they're all sons and daughters. They're like cousins and shit too,
He
right?
had a lot of kids though. He had a lot of he had a lot of ladies, and
Right.
when I went to his speaking of where dead people lie, I went to his mausoleum, and at 8 Mile, is it? No, they call it 9 Mile there. 8 Mile is what's his name? The dumb guy, Eminem. Yeah. Sorry, I don't really mean dumb guy, but whatever. 9 Miles where Bob Marley's buried in Jamaica, like not like outside of Ocho Rios. Um, but where his body lays, he had another son who played for the Miami Hurricanes, who died when he was young, and he was buried in the same spot right next to where Bob Marley's body was laid. I don't know what the purpose for that was, but that was a weird, an odd thing to. And when I went there that day, one of the weirdest fucking days of my life, the cab driver that took us there, his name was Ricky Ricardo, or at least that's what he told us his name was. But like the first thing that he asked us, we're getting into the car, we're negotiating prices, and it's $100 a person, and Brad is like, I don't know. I'm like, fuck you, dude. That's cheap compared to what the excursions were trying to charge us. So we get in the car, and he says, "Do you mind if I drop a couple people off at the shop so I can just make some quick cash while we're going up to Bob's place?" And we're like, "Of course, you know." So we go and drop him off, and as soon as the other people get out of the car, he turns around back and looks at Brad and me, and he says, "So do you guys need anything?" And I looked back at Brad, and I didn't smoke anymore at that point in time, but we're in Jamaica, and Brad was an avid smoker to be sure, and we were not in the wonderful space that we are in the Colorado now, where recreational is just like old news. So Brad was like yeah, and he's like, give me $20. So Brad gives him $20. We park at this Diamond Shamrock, and they got all these little stands all over this place where people are selling like ironwood carvings and Bob Marley fucking tie-dyed shirts and shit. It's all the same thing everywhere. And um, Ricky hops out of the car, and I turn back to Brad, and I put my hand on the fucking door handle, and I'm like, dude, if I see a cop anywhere, I said, we're 200 yards from that fucking boat landing, and I'm fucking booking for it. I'm not going to jail because you want to fucking smoke weed. And thank goodness, Ricky goes to this guy, gives him the money. He walks this guy, that goes to that guy, comes back to that guy, and comes back to Ricky. And we hop in the fucking here. He hops in the car and starts going up the fucking road. Hands me back a fucking about 5 grams of fucking really pretty weed, and asks me if we need any papers and scissors. I mean, what kind of that's like the best service I've ever had in my life. We're going to get you weed, and we're going to get you the tools that you need so that you can smoke your weed. I really like Ricky. I hope Ricky Ricardo has a wonderful life. He
I'm
really
sure
is very good.
he's probably just happy as shit down there driving a cab. So just to backtrack slightly, Bob Marley acknowledged 11 children with 7 different mothers.
I almost said no fucking around, but that would make no sense in that context because that is just nothing but fucking around.
Right. He definitely got around. And
Rita didn't have any problems with it. They had their beliefs in relation to that stuff.
I didn't say anything.
I know. I just think it's like I think it's interesting culturally when people are not, I mean, because he was hyper, like they were obviously like the Rasta stuff. I mean, it ties into Egyptian stuff. It ties into, uh, uh, like the Jewish faith, and obviously it ties to Christianity a ton. But it definitely doesn't tie to the way that they thought about relationships and the family as it reflects in the Judaism faith and Jewish faith or in the Christian faith.
No, we kind of have some fucked up beliefs in the United States where, it almost turns us all into some weird fucking, like, prudes, like Orthodox prudes.
You're telling me I grew up Mormon, dude. I think I'll have to live and die 7 times to get all the fucked up shit out of my head that stupid religion plugged into me.
Well, it's not just that cult. It's It's all of the cults,
But
dude.
you know, the Mormons have to wear the special underwear because you're not allowed to have fun while you're fucking. What the fuck? How can you not have fun while you're fucking? That's not good. Look, I love you, my brother up in Coeur d'Alene, but there's nothing wrong with, you don't have to have the special underwear. Throw the special underwear away. Get a little weird sometimes. Have a little fun.
I'm sure he does. He just doesn't admit it.
So you have to understand that, like, since we were talking about dead musicians today, and Wednesday is supposed to be the day that lightens things up a little bit, we had to get at least into an area where, we are actually effectively lightening things up a little bit. So all we needed to do was talk about Bob Marley and his kids and Mormons and special underwear. And
I thought it was pretty light the whole time, dude.
I know. I just, but still, the thought of, like, the day that we're supposed to lighten things up, it's just funny to think that we're
talking about dead people.
It's a pretty morbid fucking subject. So,
well, I just wanted to talk about it because I don't know, either, like, those people that fucking wail and cry and, act hysterical. I'm not sure that they're thinking, or maybe I'm not thinking about how much these people have actually impacted my life. I mean, I remember playing, like, Prince's Purple Rain album on my brand new boombox when I was like fucking 11 years old, dude.
Your Darling Nikki was the first song on the second side, right?
Yeah. And the Foo Fighters did a really good cover of that song.
Did they really?
Fucking A, it's awesome, dude.
That's fucking hilarious. Really?
Yeah.
Respect. That's fucking crazy. Of all the songs to choose, so I'm gonna have to find that.
It's a really good cover. Yeah, so I mean, and a lot of the songs that we listen to, they were probably written or played by some of these dead people at one time or another. And we haven't even mentioned all of the fucking dead people.
You can't. I mean, how do you fucking mention all the dead people? I
right.
was just looking down in front of me like I haven't said anything about that one or that one or that one or that one.
I know. I mean, I was bummed out when dude from Sublime OD'd.
Brad
Noel.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
When Lane Staley died, another fucking OD.
A lot of Seattle people, a lot of fucking Seattle people. Like you said, Chris, Kurt, Lane Staley, Scott Weiland.
Scott Weiland was from San Diego, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I associated them because they were all sort of like in that scene.
They popped up at the same time. And I always thought that STP would have been grunge too, but I'm pretty sure he's from Southern California.
Sure you're probably right. I just was associating it because it sort of seemed to follow.
And I didn't think he was ever going to die.
Why?
Because he kind of seemed like
Keith Richards.
Yeah. Where he just, because he had OD'd like 4 fucking times and didn't die, and just kept doing drugs. So I figured he was going to live forever. I guess nobody lives forever. And that was a great fucking band. I loved those guys. Stone Temple Pilots.
I like their first album the best though. Like there was the other stuff, I don't know.
And Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I think probably Dirt was their best album. Jar of Flies was a cool album though too. An interesting like right turn kind of for them. Switched to a straight acoustic after. And it showcased Lane's, I mean, he had such a unique voice. It really showcased his voice. Really good.
And they never should have tried to find another band member, which they did. And, now they're playing Alice in Chains. And I've got a friend that said he just saw Sublime in Vegas. You couldn't have seen Sublime in Vegas. Dude is dead. The band ended in 1996.
That's why they like call it Sublime with whoever that guy is that plays with them now, isn't it?
Well, most of the other ones, I thought they had formed the Long Beach Dub All-Stars.
Well, but there is like a Sublime Light, something like it's Sublime with some guy. I can't remember his fucking name. I agree with you. I saw Sublime accidentally once. I was going to fucking the KTCL Big Adventure, and I was with douchebag Josh, and they were fucking up there and they started playing Scarlet Begonias, and Josh is like, dude, they're playing the fucking Dead. I'm like, who the fuck is this? Sublime. I don't know who the fuck they are.
Well, you remember we saw Alice in Chains by accident too.
Opening up for fucking Van Halen, and they got booed off the fucking stage.
Which was fucking crazy, dude.
Sucks.
Because the following year they didn't get booed off of anything,
no,
dude.
They didn't. They were headlining all over the place. Dude, Dirt was a fucking great album, dude. It was a really great. And Jerry Cantrell was, very good vocals, and his guitar was.
His solo stuff kind of sucked, though.
Yeah, no, they sometimes you need the context, and I think that theirs really did. I didn't like Mad Season either. They needed each other, so I think.
Yeah, it was kind of a shame. But hopefully sometime in the near future there'll be another musician that I like. I kind of doubt it based on what the fuck is happening, but who knows?
Dude, there's a lot of good music out there right now. You just got to know where to look. You just got to turn over a few rocks.
That's a good point.
Go run around on YouTube for a little while. I found a lot of good stuff on Weird, and because different, but you know me, I'm into the jam band stuff more than you're ever going to be into it. So, but I'll see these people sitting in with those people, and then that spins out of that, and then you'll have more people that you like that's musical, and then they'll die, and then you'll have more people that you like that are musical that are dead.
Right. So I guess the whole thing is the circle is find somebody you like, they die. Find somebody you like, they die. And so the world turns.
And hopefully you don't die. But that's going to happen eventually too.
Yeah.
So I hear, anyway.
I think that's the way it works. So, who do you guys like that is alive or dead? Fuck, I don't care. Just let us know. Did we miss anybody that was really fucking important?
I'm gonna just run down some names real quick that I think.
I think we did.
Leonard Cohen, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke,
Marvin Gaye,
Roy Orbison. We said all them.
And Roy Orbison.
John Bonham, Keith Moon, Warren Zevon, Elliott Smith, really great singer-songwriter, fucking cuckoo bird. But Jeff Buckley, my favorite version of Hallelujah ever. The keyboardist for the Grateful Dead, the hot seat, so to speak, Pigpen, Keith Gotcha, and Brett Midland. Billie Holiday, Freddie Mercury. We were talking about Queen. We just didn't say Freddie Mercury. It goes on and on. There's a million more,
I know. I just can't believe I didn't even mention Roy Orbison.
I was thinking out of that one, because George Harrison. So out of the Traveling Wilburys, which of course is an afterthought. They were doing what was it called, Free Falling, and they were trying to create a B-side song, and Bob Dylan. They were like at his studio or something like that. And Roy Orbison came in, and they just and it ended up being Handle with Care. And they're like, we can't fucking put this on a B-side, So they fucking did that. The album came out, and 5 minutes later, he fucking hopped a curb and fucking smacked his head off of his motorcycle and safe in. But George Harrison's dead now. Roy Orbison's dead. Tom Petty's dead. Only ones left is Bob Dylan, who I think is a little bit like Keith Richards too. And Jeff Lynne from Electric Light Orchestra. So
it's fucking nuts. All right. Well, much respect to all of you. Sorry you're gone. I am not going to light a candle or have a vigil because that's just
and I
not
didn't
me.
say old dirty bastard.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about that before the show. And how many people really are in Wu-Tang Clan?
It's going to have to be a show on its own.
Okay, so we're coming up on 45 now. Sorry about the morbid topic. Next episode, we are going to be talking about torture, which is much lighter.
No morbidity there. Joyful.
You can reach us on Twitter and TikTok Twitter is Short Bus Debate. TikTok is Short Bus Debate Club. You can email us at shortbusdebateclub@yahoo or
720-344-334. Roll, bitches.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.
Adios.